Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Madden God podcast. I'm Max, your host, and I'm here with the wonderful, the amazing, the one and only Roxanne. Hello, Roxy.
Hello,
Welcome
Max.
back.
Thank you so much.
Uh, how are you today?
Man, I'm feeling good. Yeah, feeling good. Body's feeling good. Still got some couple of issues, but we're working those out with the hickory dickory dock. So I think we'll be good. The dock. Hickory dickory dock.
So,
So where do we want to go today, my friend?
we're going to talk about channeling and, let's say, spiritual abilities.
I really enjoyed your
And
channeling yesterday.
thank you.
Who was that guy?
It was Michael, Archangel Michael.
Michael.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's a really good segue into channeling. Really good uh, opening. So you got people out there who don't understand what channeling is. And then all of a sudden you're bringing Archangel Michael into it. So you're channeling, which is into humans, uh, to the, or let's say, to a lot of the religious ideas. Archangel Michael's this deity of greatness, of holiness. It's an angel, that kind of thing. And the audacity of a sinner, lowly human to say you can channel that. So
Yes.
why don't we open up with a little? Uh, I think we're going to start with channeling. We may go on to something else, or we may save something else, or get to it next week because there's a couple of different things we want to do. Talk about that or not in the mainstream. Although I've discovered channeling has been around a very, very long time. The word channeling has been used a very, very long time. You know,
Yeah.
and it just goes in and out of uh, fashion, I should suppose. So, what do you think
Well,
channeling is? Talk to me about it. Where do you want to go? Go ahead.
what channeling is I think that that's a topic in itself that could take us for some episodes actually. But uh, I think right what I perceive or what I see is that channeling absolutely outside of what the notion channeling is. One thing that I heard, and I think that it's correct, is that we're channeling ourselves. That's the first thing that one can relate to in order to understand what channeling is, because all of us, we're doing it in channeling the self. So we are doing it naturally, right? We are doing it as being, as life, as creation, as existence. We're doing it. When we go into the concept of channeling, though, then there we enter into something that is a little bit more scary for some because they say, oh, it's possession. Or, oh, what is that? What do they want? Because we're not really, or are we channeling ourselves? We are channeling other beings. But then that
Well,
concept is even not quite clear to me because I say, right, like when you were told it in 99% sly, or was it 99%, something like that. So but it's even not important. The thing is that in our reality, what we experience is that we're bringing forward what we can define a energy, and that energy is an exchange that we have with these beings. That's the communication that we receive. I think that communication is a very good way of
yes.
to
I just,
to to
yeah,
go through it,
I wanted
right?
to put it in like if no one's ever heard of channeling, how would you define it? So, hi, what is channeling? That's
Channeling is um, the bringing forth a message, a communication, an idea that we share with being that exist in a extra dimensional way.
Yeah, it's allowing like an extraterrestrial, extra dimensional alien being, another form of consciousness to speak through you. So you're channeling it in, you're connecting, and you're becoming a channel that allows that being to speak through you. I
Yes.
think that's a good. I think that's a good idea. Okay, good. Keep going.
And so we are this message, right? We allow this to be brought into our world, our reality, through the channeling. And I think that one thing that is quite important to share with this is that the channeling, so the message is not a message that come from a superior being or as a patronizing or a savior. Um, it's channeling is an exchange between equals, so that we uh, we are receiving information, but we are also sharing our information. And so it's a two ways communication. It's not one way communication. It's not just them giving us a message or, oh, poor little humans, let's try to save them from themselves. It's nothing of that. Even though I know that things of some this kind of idea are out there, right? It's we cannot control it. We cannot. It's just the way it is. Everyone has their interpretation, their ideas, and also they have their way of channeling. And I think that it's a good thing to go into is to go into how do you channel, or um, how do you perceive for yourself your channeling, because everyone has a different way of doing it. There is not just one way. How is it for you, Roxy?
Oh, I had to unmute my microphone. Um, it's like, well, when I channel it was quite simple for me to learn. It just took. Uh, I had a belief system of doubt. I had doubt in me, created from my human life. Uh, Doubt that this was real because I was looking for validation. But when I first started learning, first opened up, I would get voices in my head, but not like loud voices telling me to, for my dog to go kill people. The voice in my head was like answering questions about when I was waking up, different ideas, an internal dialogue. And there was a very distinct voice one day that it was a different voice than my internal voice. It was very different. And it was a guy, an entity named Hugh, Hew. Um, I thought it was Heu, but I don't know. It was Hew or Heu. I can't remember. Anyway, so Hugh, uh, let me set up the scene. We were done with a guided meditation at a friend's house. It was a meetup. And we were all sitting around talking about ascension, waking up, creating your reality, everything. It was just after conversation, we're sitting around having coffee and little chocolate muffins and enjoying each other's company. Very nice. And then someone had said something, and then Hugh whispered in my head and says, "Hey, Roxy." And I heard it, and it just clear as a bell. And it says, "Say this." And then I was like, I said, "Hang on." And I said it. And everyone stops and goes, "Holy shit. Where the fuck did you get that?" And I was like, "I don't know, some voice in my head told me that." So that's when I said, "Hey, who are you?" I just asked him, and he goes, "My name is Hugh," and I told everyone his name is Hugh, and that was good. And there wasn't much after that, except when I was driving home from the meeting, Hugh asked me, he said, "Do you want to learn how to channel?" And I was like, "Fuck yeah." Especially after watching Bashar and Abraham, Esther Hicks and Abraham, and I was, devouring. There was Daniel Scranton and Rob Gauthier, Brad Johnson, Dora Harold, Wendy Kennedy, and I'm watching these people channel, and I was like, my God, I want to do that. And just trusted the voice. And the process was like I would feel the connection. It was time to channel. Like, okay, will you channel for us? And that co-creating moment, it's time to channel. And then I'd get the connection in my mind, a distinct vibrational, no mistake connection to a being. Eventually, Osipius came, Kania came, uh, Nakuru, Akita, all these different entities and, these vibrations of consciousness, points of awareness would connect with me, and I just let them talk. And as it's going, as the words are flowing, my mind is going ape shit. It's like, is it real? Is it this? Is it that? I had a lot of doubts at the beginning. But as you keep going, it's validated and validated and validated. But not before it was needed to be validated externally. But then I was validating it internally because I started to see the results of the work that I've done and the way I've changed about myself, the relationship with myself. So it really, really got quite phenomenal. And I still channel today. It's been what, since 2013 I started. So almost 10 years, I guess. Right? I don't know. Coming on my 10th year, if I'm doing the math right. Yeah.
Yes.
So that's how it started. And that's what it is for me. It's a very simple process. Very simple. I've seen a lot of people do a whole bunch of other processes. And maybe those are things from time. Preparing yourself, there was still the idea there's good and there's evil as a standard. And now we know good and evil is a perception, that kind of idea. It's just an interpretation. So everything is unconditional, and how you relate to it is your experience. So,
Yeah,
a
exactly.
lot of those processes were valid at the time, and they've changed over the years on how to connect. Go ahead, what are you going to say?
Yeah, absolutely. And you can see this process um, through those that have been related to us through books, like Seth James and um, channeling Seth, or you have Carla channeling Ra, and these have been um, related through books. And the it's even more interesting to read Seth, especially when um, Jane relates her process of having the first contacts with Seth, and the process she took herself, and this being that she was hearing in her head, into discovering, is it a secondary personality, is it that she's crazy, or right, all of these things. And they did tests and they did a lot of stuff. They didn't come to a final answer, and in the end, uh, all Jane could say is that I hear a voice in my head. It's not me, it's something else. Cannot explain it. It's real.
And what's amazing about that is they don't pay attention to the message. They're so focused on if it's real or not, they're not looking at the absolute priceless information that Seth has been pumping out since the 60s. Because, they did it in the ESP classes. There was a contact through a Ouija board, just like Abraham Hicks was contacted through a Ouija board. All of this stuff, all this idea, they're looking at, is it real, and not paying attention to the words, to the information. I mean, you can't write 7 best-selling books on the philosophies of humanity, selling billions, and be invalid because you don't understand the process.
Mhm.
That's just the arrogance of humanity. And of course, especially in the 60s and 70s, everything needed to be, I mean, we were in the space race, we were science, science, science. We need to get proven, we need to do this, we need to have all this tested and all that crap because everything is black and white.
Yeah, absolutely, and especially the notion, or also the notion of internalization was not yet there. So it was all in the outside, and uh, so the validation, when you are in the outside, the validation is necessary because it's the only thing that you have to relate to reality, that otherwise doesn't make sense, and you have to make it sense by proving it.
Yes.
It makes sense. and and then the other example is another example, which is a example that is interesting because you see that this example goes much more into something that is expressing a lot a lot of belief systems coming through the channeling, but also the process of entering into the channeling state, which is Carla with Ra, where they had to set up the room in a certain way, in a certain direction for the bed, and with the Bible, and with a candle, if I remember correctly, and a
Yeah, it was very,
crucifix.
very ritualistic, yes.
Very ritualistic, and
But
you
she was
can
also she
see.
was also a trans channeler though. Maybe we need to explain that too.
Yeah, exactly.
We have to talk about that. But that was a very ritualistic process in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And then now you can see, because there are many videos uh, of channelers, and you can see their process for going into the channeling
Yeah,
to bringing the message. You can see Rob, he has to neutralize himself, right,
yeah.
before uh, coming back and channeling. Or you have other people that have it, that they can do it like Nora, straight. She goes in and out,
Just in and
in
out.
and
Yeah.
out, and so uh, really different, very different way of doing it, and each way works, and each way is personal because it's a personal relationship with the self. It's the way, because there's a it's like it remains maybe something like a ritual or something, but you have to enter into the feeling of the communication, so the energy,
Hmm.
to bring it forward, right? So everyone has to go into that connection in their ways, and we are not all the same. So we don't do it the same, which
Of course
also
not.
means that for someone that is learning it, right, don't have expectations. Expectation are really,
Yeah, because
and
huge. They have I've taught people to channel. They have enormous expectations on what
yes,
they're supposed to get, what they're supposed to feel, what they're supposed to say, and that just fucks it up 3 ways from Wednesday.
exactly. And I was one of those that had expectations of hearing voices. That was my expectation, that I had just to listen and shut up in my head, and a
Yeah.
voice will show up like that, right? And that's not how I'm doing it. Doesn't mean that in my evolution I will not have that. Is that right now it's not the way it goes, because I can hear voices in my head, right? I can have but generally it's one word, or some words, but it doesn't go any farther than that, and it's fine. I don't have to force or try anything with that. When I'm channeling, I'm I'm talking, right? It's there's how I'm getting it. I feel the being, I feel the energy, and then I just talk. And so that requires the trust, the confidence, the letting go, and take a step back, and allow it to go through.
Yeah, I just say I let it go. I get out
Yeah.
of the way. I step aside. I don't run interference. The connection is there, and as soon as I get it, I let it go, and I become a audience member,
Yeah,
just
exactly.
viewing it, listening it, and then it just flows like butter. No, it's smooth like flows like soft like butter. No, I can't. I don't know. It flows very well. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And
anyway, that's yeah. I think we all have channelers out there, but for the ones that aren't or they're introducing themselves to channeling or want to look at it, there's plenty of channels to look on YouTube, and you'll have to use your own internal uh, interpretation of the channel. It's not that the channel is a good or a bad channel. You just have to find one that maybe fits your focus in bringing that kind of information. And remember, never shoot the messenger unless he's the asshole in 300 that got kicked. I can see shooting that messenger that got kicked down into the pit. You bring the heads of dead kings to my city steps, insult my queen, and threaten my people with slavery. Oh, I've chosen my words well. Anyways, so yeah. Um, so when you're watching channeling, don't shoot the messenger. You know, just allow the information. You're there for the concepts. So I know as a humans we objectify things, and first thing we do is judge things like a new person or a new employee, or like checking them out, scanning them, talking to our friend that we're familiar with, and says, "Yeah, since we have a bond here, we can check out." So stave off that habit of judging and allow the information to come through. And it resonates with you, watch it. If it doesn't, find another channel that bring a bit different information in for you. Because
yeah.
I mean, you have access to all of intelligence. We can't access everything because not everything in the here and the now is accessible by us because it's a frequency match. In other words, we can't understand that information. It would be like um, taking a Corvette and taking it back 5,000 years and expecting them to know it's a car. It's just out of the knowledge. People always ask, well, how do people live without air conditioning? Well, they didn't know it. They didn't know a
Yeah.
life with air conditioning, so you can't have a loss of it. So when you're connecting with intelligence, you only get what you're understanding, you're capable of comprehending and understanding. So that leads me to another point. Um, when you're listening to a channel, don't fight for your limitations by saying it's too much or I don't understand it. See, education has taught us you need to understand it and then you're going to get graded on it. And if you don't understand it, you're a failure or you're dumb or you may have to repeat the course or you may need special education or tutoring. That's all crap. Okay. It's first off, if they're in a class they don't like, don't go to the class. But of course, our schooling shoves it down. Here's how you're going to be smart. And if you fail, well, we have to throw you away. Anyways, that's my rant about that. So forget about the education. If you can't get it the first time, don't try to get it and understand it. Let it, it's been seeded in you. the nourishment of that seed of information, that intelligence, is allowance. Just let it um, marinate in you, and it'll bear its fruit in time. So you'll get these wonderful little epiphanies, pew 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 pew, here and there as you're moving along. As you're moving along during your day, and then you'll get it, and you'll understand it. You'll get it. I had a guy 2 years. It was 2 years, and he's texted me the other day. I don't know if I said this last week or not. And he goes, Roxy, I get it. I finally freaking get it. I get it. I get it. I get it. I know what the hell you're talking about. It took me a while. I was fighting for it. I gave up on it, but then I had that clarity, and it was like it was wonderful. So I think when you're watching channeling or experiencing it for the first time, be very open. Let your critical mind run around in the yard of your mind, but don't give it any attention. Don't call it over. Just let it run around and find its own entertainment. Don't give that criticism mind energy or that judgmental. Don't give it energy. Just allow yourself to be in the moment, like you're watching a movie. Just enjoy the movie. Enjoy the movie. That kind of idea.
Yeah.
So I think that's channeling in a nutshell. There was Edgar Casey was a trance channeler. He lay down there and go into a trance. The trance channelers, as opposed to a conscious channeler, guys, is trance channelers are not aware that they're channeling. They go into a state of being, and it's not sleep. They're not asleep. They're just not present, and the
Yeah,
being is completely
floating up
there.
there.
Yeah, there's like uh, Seth, Jane Roberts was a trance channeler, although she would sometimes remember a few things. Bashar, Daryl Anka is his name. He channels, what do you call Bashar, the Essassani civilization, or a future idea of species. So, anyways, um, he doesn't remember. He's a total trance channeler, and so was Rob Gauthier. I'm a conscious
Yes.
channeler. And I looked at it and was like, well, I have it in my head. Just if I'm awake, I get to experience it. I go back and watch the channel. I think Abraham's a channel. Uh, Esther Hicks is a trans channeler too. Um, and so is Jay Z Knight, who channels Ramtha, outstanding being, very powerful, powerful being. Um, anyways, so you're a conscious channeler. I'm a conscious channeler. We're present when we channel and we hear everything. We just don't interrupt. We just allow it to flow, and we're part of against the audience. So
Yes.
those are I think the basics of it. What do you
Yeah, absolutely. And one or the other, I mean, it's again, everyone has their own way of doing it. And we and I say with that comes also what is then other abilities that are used with the channeling in connection with it, which is right. Some people are clairvoyant, so they are also having visions. Um, for instance, I'm not clear. I mean, I don't know how to define that, but I can see colors. So the energy of the being, I cannot see the being. I can see the colors, the energy, which could also be just the communication, right? The exchange of energy that happens when we are communicating. So that right, and that comes. Everyone has their own way, and it's interesting because then when you exchange with a trans channeler, that doesn't have the memory of what was said. It's you have a different experience than when you are talking with Roxanne coming out of channeling, and Roxanne is totally there with the full information of what has been channeled, right? It's just different.
Yeah.
Um, but I wanted to say another thing that when you are experiencing channeling, um, is also to have to be in it, experience it, right? But also allow your feeling, your gut. Sometimes you may have someone that brings forward a information that doesn't go with you. Don't take it always at face value, because sometimes it happens. It happened to me to experience that, where I realized that what I was fed was just a bunch of nonsense. And it's again, as Roxy said, don't shoot the message or the being, because remember, it's a co-creation. And one thing that is there in every channel is that there is a filter, and so there is a interpretation of the message that has to be done so that it can be taken forward. And some people have more filters than others, and so they may then influence the the message, the way they take it forward. So
Yeah.
recognize that.
And
And
again,
one, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and again, always look at the message itself, whether it's
Exactly.
filtered or not. If it resonates with you, if it's giving you intelligence, don't worry about it where it comes from. Humanity is like someone knocks on your door and gives you a suitcase that has $1 million in it, and most people would say, "Why? What's the catch? Who are you? Would you just take the $1 million and go thank you and shut the door?" So see, that's what how the mind will work. It's like, what's going on here? You know, they want to know the external part of it instead of just, oh, $1 million. Oh, a great message. Forget about how it got to your door. It's
Yes.
there.
And another point is to see if there is a fear-based message that is delivered. If it leaves you in fear with a promise of disasters or right this kind of things, then it's a clue.
Yeah,
It's a cue,
lots of
right?
predictions, telling you facts, history, things like. There's a lot of channels out there that say, well, this is going to happen and this is going to happen, and I was like, okay, great. That's what that channel's information is. That's what the filter is. That's that perspective, that co-creation. Doesn't mean you have to listen to it. I mean, if you thrive on fear and you want to live your life through fear, well, then choose it and just spin yourself until you die, because that's the only thing you're doing is creating an experience of fear.
Yeah, it's but right. Let's not stay with that. It's just this is just a disclosure, right? To put the consciousness of that this happened, but
Yeah.
we are talking about channeling. And so let's go back into the channeling, the experience. And because I mean, we're doing it because we're passionate about it, and it's something that is absolutely fascinating, uh, to connect with these beings
Oh, it's
and to
phenomenal.
exchange, right?
It's wonderful when you connect to a being and you feel the presence of them inside of you, and the two beings merge into this idea of oneness, and then it's exceptional.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is.
And so one question. Let me do that. One question that we hear is, why are they doing that? What isn't there? What do they expect from uh, from this, from doing right the channeling? Why would they do
What are
that?
the beings expecting?
Yeah, the
Nothing.
ED. Yes,
Nothing.
there you go.
Yeah, they're not getting hired to do this. They're not lackful. They don't need an exchange. The moment itself is fulfilling. There's always there's no lack in these beings, so of course they don't need.
It's the unconditional expressing itself. They do it because they do it. There's
They do
nothing
it because
else.
they're interested. They're part of the co-creation. It's like, someone asked me, why did you write this book? What was the motivation behind the book? I was like, there was no motivation behind the book. I just couldn't help but to write. The story was in me, and I wanted to get it out there for me, for an expression, for a journey of self-discovery, not for some external randomness that has to be measured and valued by the depiction of humanity's landscape, saying, okay, this is a good reason to write a book. What the fuck is that? I do it because it's exceptional. The beings are channeled in because it's exceptional. It's a priceless experience.
Yeah, and you see, I've heard recently that the grandson of Tolkien is um, sharing that um, they are unable to reach the greatness of their grandfather, and so they feel a failure, or they feel that, right, that there is a burden on them because blah 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 blah, and
Sounds like crap. What are they
right,
talking about?
yeah, and you say, well, then, right, the question, why are you doing that? Well, yeah, why are you doing that? Doesn't, right, it's just expressing the unconditional, and there you see what it makes when someone is not expressing the unconditional and putting conditions over them, because you do not have to be as good as your grandfather, just be you,
Yeah, don't be your
right?
grandfather, for God's sakes. The hell is that?
So that what you do doesn't have to have any meaning or any reason or anything attached to it. You just do it
Yeah. I mean,
out of
I
doing
understand
it.
the idea behind legacy. I get that.
Yeah.
Living up to the expectation. There's a lot of emotional pressures behind that. And if you carry the Tolkien name, I mean, that's a big frickin' name. Great writer. It's like
Yes.
Frank Herbert's son writing his own books and stuff like that. He's not his dad. He'll never write like his dad.
Yeah,
Actually, he
and
writes
he
like
should have.
himself. Huh?
Yeah, he should have had that that thing that so that he wouldn't write, because he didn't. What they did was not good. But that's
Yeah.
just a joke. It's just a joke.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
You can't do that. I mean, I read a lot of Herbert. I read well Tolkien. I think I'm done with all the Tolkien stuff. Like, no, I think I had the what's that? The Cimmerillion? Is that what it is?
yeah,
Tolkien Cimmerillion?
that's great. It's fabulous.
Yeah, I haven't read that, but I'm on book 5 of Frank Herbert's work, and he inspires me with ideas, but I'll never try to copy. He gives me perspectives and develops my mind. He's inspiration for me to create my own take on things. You know, to try to
Yeah.
copy another person, you can't copy them. You can't copy.
No, and especially because this is another way of channeling, right? We are talking about writing, but writing is another way of it's another process of channeling, because this, especially these great storytelling tellers, uh, what they are bringing forward is a reality, so they are channeling. Then obviously they are bringing it into the human reality, so it becomes a human perspective, right? But the way they do it, they're channeling. So writing is another process of channeling. Like we can also uh, talk about the channeling in the acting world, right? The
Yeah,
actors
yeah,
do channel.
yeah. They channel
So
in the feeling, the vibration, of course. So channeling is a very, very valid idea, and there's a whole bunch of different ways to express that. You know, I highly
and
recommend. Go ahead.
yes, yes, and so that is also something that is available to everyone. One thing that I like, because uh, I was to the hospital recently, and this is the second time that I'm asked that, or that I'm presenting with that notion, saying that I'm doing extraordinary things, and I always answer no. I'm not doing anything extraordinary. I'm doing the ordinary. Is because just because many people are not perceiving it or accepting that they can do these things, that it becomes extraordinary. But it's not because it's in itself extraordinary. It's just because I'm doing it. I'm doing what I know I can do, but I also know that you can do it. So I'm not extraordinary.
Right, right.
And because I've seen, right, I've been presenting with that, but I'm also seeing people that are right are doubting, or are maybe willing. I'd like to. Well, if you do, well, you can do it. Then it's up to you to find your way. But the ability, we all have it.
Sure, we do. We all have it.
And then, like for everything, everyone has their choices. We do our choices, we have our reality. And so if you are entering into this, is also because you choose to enter into this. Then you have people that choose not to enter into this, and they don't have the notion, or they may hear about that but they're not interested.
Right, right.
We are.
We're very interested.
um, so I wanted to, I'd like to ask you, besides what is the channeling, um, how do you perceive your abilities, your strength, your relationship with what you're doing, the way you bring forward your work, your passion?
I think, what is it, my abilities you're asking?
Yes, how do you perceive in yourself, right?
Exceptional channel, very good channel. I've gotten better at it. I've gotten better
Well,
at it. I've worked on it,
yes.
So I think it's to a point, it's exceptional. I mean, if you were looking for a measurement of the ability, But it doesn't mean it's done yet, by any means. There's always another door within a door within a door. And then anytime you open a room, there's always another door in that room. You explore the room, and then when you end up with a door in front of you, you walk through, and that's what my channeling has led me from closed eyes to open eyes to different processes of connecting um, and allowing the personalities of these channels to come through, allowing them to give them my body, to give them my muscles, to give them so they can be present in here, which is really, really intense, wonderful. Um, it's like when I channel Esmeralda, and I have her go in the kitchen or she wants to cook a meal. I'm not cooking. I mean, I'm just, along for the ride on her shoulders. She's moving the bodies, grabbing the dishes, doing the recipes. I'm not doing shit. That's so those the abilities of the channeling is a I think it's a craft itself. We want to be masters at our craft. So I work at it and I work on my channeling. You know, and I also work on it through the non-channeling idea. I don't channel it for someone. If I'm working alone, I'm talking to this being. I'm having one-on-one conversations. And that takes a skill set because you have your ego mind in there too, going squawk, squawk, makak, makak, and bringing in the doubt. And you have to learn to let those thoughts go and engage in the conversation that's going on and connect with different beings that way, you know. And, you're having that internal dialogue. So that's a form of connection. And you can hone your craft like that as well, you know. Like when me and you were talking the other day, it's like if your whole self wants me to know something. When I'm talking in my sessions, I usually don't channel during the sessions unless it's called for. But I'm talking, and the whole self says, "Hey, ask about this or say this." And I'm channeling that information. You have to learn to trust that those words, the validity of them, and explore them. And don't look for something to be there. Don't be in desperation or need. That was a skill when someone wants to talk to their dead family members. I learned very quickly never to channel dead family members because they're not dead and they're not family members. They're individual gods that in the memory of that person, in the co-creation of the humanity version, there was that person. But the person that created that, the entity behind that, something completely different than the personality born on earth. So their expectations are super high. And I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna, I'll leave that for the psychics to do that.
Yeah,
And
exactly, because that is not channeling the whole being. You
yeah,
have
I'm
to connect
channeling the
with.
idea. I've
Yeah.
had I've had great stories with channeling the being about the incarnation that were very, very valid. But those are moment things. Those are in the moments. Those aren't predestined and set in time and force. You just you give all that success and validation up, and you allow yourself to explore the mastery of it, and it'll reveal its own greatness. It'll reveal its own exquisite evolution, its own intelligence as you journey through it, which it has, tenfold. Kind of like when you're channeling during your sound meditations, what bowl to
Mhm.
hit, what pace to hit, what to say, what not to say. I mean, things like that. You know,
Yes, and in that
it's a skill
you
set.
see, yes, and also the evolution through time, right? The knowing your skill, but also exercises them, because the way I can do it now, it's not the way I was doing before. And but I couldn't do the way I'm doing now before because I was not there yet, right? It was not the moment. Having the
Right.
confidence of letting go, of allowing it just to flow, not put the ego in it, taking the back door and staying away. it takes exercise. It takes some, right.
Well, the best way I learn is channel my ass off. The more
Yeah,
experience, the better I got it. I don't want to avoid something I'm learning. If I'm going to be a mechanic, give me a car to work on. If I'm going to be a professional bike rider, give me a bike. Don't give me a video. Give me a bike. So that's what you got to do. So you just channel your ass off, which I did, and I learned the skill set. I learned my internal doubts, my internal beliefs. I learned these things and understanding I don't need to employ them. Trusted and let go of the doubt. I took the journey of exploration, and the way I used to channel and the way I channel now, there's some similarities. Some things are still in place, but some things are very, very far gone. But those are my rungs of the ladders of my own evolution. I don't bring the
yeah.
rungs of the ladder with me. I climb the ladder that's already there.
So another question will be, when you are channeling, and especially, right, you have more experience than me. uh, for instance, when you channel Sylvester, are you channeling a Sylvester, or is it that you are channeling a version, so it changes every time you are doing it?
Well, it's always Sylvester the entity. When I channel Sylvester, it's the same entity. But
Yes.
Sylvester changes, so there's different versions of Sylvester. So when I connect with him, he may be 10,000 years in the past or 10,000 years in the future from a perspective of the now. So you can feel the same entity, but there's personality differences, there's persona differences. You can feel the evolution of that idea, the changes. So when I let fly in, someone had said it becomes like Floxy, Roxanne and Sly. So it becomes Floxy. It's the merging of Sly and Roxanne, and our energies combine one, and that energy starts to express. So I'm always in the mix, but my vibrational isness is in the mix. And how that comes out in interpretation, I don't know. I don't know the science on that, nor do I care to know. All I know that it's an exceptional um, experience A, and of course the information, the intelligence that's being offered is priceless. It's just phenomenal ideas for us to explore. So um, it's like Osipius changed a couple of times a little bit, but he's pretty much Osipius across the board. Sly's changed a little bit here and there, but remember I've changed too. You know,
Yeah, that's exactly where I want you to come to, is that there is evolution both sides. We're
yeah,
evolving, they're evolving. And so that is also why then the channeling evolves, and we bring forward always, obviously, if we allow it, right, if we accept to go through that, then it we are evolving the message, starting to bring forward new ideas, new way of expressing things, right? And so it's an evolution. It's not something that is static or fixed. You do it this way, you are channeling this being, and this being is always this version.
yeah,
You know, it's
yeah. It's
evolving.
never the same. Only I can keep it the same by forcing it. If I let it go, it's always an evolution. You know, might appear to be the same. It doesn't matter. I know Sly. When Sly connects and Osipius connects or anyone else, it's just like bam. You just know it. It's like me looking at you. You know, you're Max. Ta-da.
Yippee!
Well, I think that was good. That was a good ideas, and maybe we'll continue this theme a little bit coming weeks about different ideas and modalities that the spiritual world embraces and explores.
Yeah,
Yeah, we'll see how it
absolutely.
goes with that. So
Yeah.
I think that's it for today. We're good.
Yes, we are. Absolutely.
I think that's it. I don't know. Is there anything else left to say? I think we said it all. No,
Yes,
feels good.
feels good. Yes.
Yeah.
And well, and obviously, if you're interested, you can ask question or have
Yes.
anything, right? You can come forward and
How do they?
contact us.
Well, they have. There's an email for you for the podcast, right?
So I didn't hear.
You have an email for the podcast.
Yes, 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 yes. And it's the Madden God podcast at gmail.com.
The Madden God podcast at gmail.com.
Yes.
So if you want to email us any questions or any comments, please do so. Appreciate that. And you can find me on Roxanne Swinehart at Odyssey of Ascension on YouTube and also odysseyofascension.com. And Max, where can they find you?
They can find me on breakfastwithmax.com and YouTube, same breakfastwithmax.com. So
All
thank
right,
you for
everyone.
joining.
Thank you so much for
Yeah.
joining in and listening to us talk about our passions of life.
Yes.
See you all next
And we
week.
will,
Go ahead.
yes, we will see you next week. Thank you, Roxy. Thank you, everyone. And goodbye.
Bye, everyone.